call for special attention to be given to the building code. The small home repair program officially launched. And support is growing for the BAIC's pop-up market.
The Bahamas Tonight Northern Edition starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Shashina Rolf-Arkeson. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news, all eyes are on the tropics this weekend as multiple weather systems continue to churn in the Atlantic. One weather system now, Tropical Storm Florence, is unleashing her fury in the Carolinas, dumping heavy rain, causing massive flooding, and has already claimed 4 lives. The Bahamas has had its share of major hurricanes over the past few years, resulting in the government spending in excess of $10 million in home repairs to date. Tonight, Ministry of Works officials say going forward, special attention must be given to the building code. Officer in charge of the Ministry of Works, Tony Hudson Bannister, says that it is imperative for residents who are undergoing construction to do so by the Bahamas Building Code standards. She says the ministry is currently enforcing the code due to the many challenges that occur after the construction of a building, particularly during a storm.
That seems to be the biggest challenge, where we have a lot of persons, their homes were destroyed or damaged because a lot of persons did not build a code. And so we are encouraging persons to follow procedure so that in the event of a disaster, you're protected. You're not only protecting yourself and the persons that live with you, but these illegal structures, or when you don't build up to standard, parts of your home become airborne missiles that injure other persons' properties and persons. It saves lives and property.
She says this is essential for those who are constructing homes on stilts.
We have revisited the connection detail for a lot of the homes that were rebuilt on stilts. We see that the stilts were intact and the homes were intact, but the connection to both was the problem. And so for the most part, we are imploring persons who want to go that route in terms of construction that they seek a competent, licensed structural engineer to do the connection detail to ensure that the two don't come apart during an impending threat.
The officer in charge of the Ministry of Work says that they have made this observation during previous storms.
So you would see that a lot of homes would have been displaced intact and sitting right next door to the stilt, or a couple of the structures all intact, roof intact, everything. It's just that it was separated from the stilt.
And residents still waiting to make repairs to their homes can now breathe a sigh of relief. Megan Shepard reports.
Senator the Honorable Jasmine Turner Darius announcing the start of the long-awaited Small Homes Repair Program, an initiative designed to repair and correct damages on small homes in urban communities. Some 32 homes from east to west have been selected for assistance.
We are thankful today to initiate and begin execution of this $249,000 program with a cluster of 32 homes. We will continue to review files to be approved, and as soon as funds are made readily available, we will approve the others. We know that you are the best in your field. We know that you contractors are the best in your field, and the Bahamas government expects high quality work done at the industry's top standard and also in a timely fashion.
Project manager of the program, Alvy Penn, says that the informational meeting with contractors served to brief them on the scope of works they will be carrying out should they accept the project and allotted budget.
We know the people in Grand Bahama have been, I guess I should say, suffering after 2 hurricanes. All right, and people, I guess every time it rains, you know, the homeowners, they call urban renewal. You know, our phones be ringing off the hook, not only in Freeport, and also in Nassau and the other family islands. So we are here today to bring comfort and to bring relief to those homeowners who have problems with their roof.
Now, Senator Darius adds that it is imperative that contractors stick to the work that has been pre-approved for repairs.
We wanted the contractors to look at the scope of work. We wanted them to assess and agree to what we've already written out for them, because we are not going to cover additional fees that was not already in the scope of work. And if you notice, we have a team from NASA, a professional team, a qualified team, who would have already assessed material and labor and incidentals into the scope of work. And so that's why we wanted them to be mindful. And so if there were, after looking at the homes, anything additional, we wanted them to be able to say beforehand, and then we'll proceed, because we want them to stay within the scope of works.
The $249,000 project is expected to be a major boost to the island.
You have 32 contractors that will experience employment along with their workers, and of course you'll have a trickle-down effect in the community. And so we are really excited that Urban Renewal is beginning the Small Home Roof Repair Program in Grand Bahama.
Senator Darius adds that more homes will be added to the program as more funds become available. Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
Well, the increased activity in the tropics does impose a threat to the Bahamas at this time. But in the meantime, there is a call being made for Bahamians to check their insurance coverage before it is too late. Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Peter Turnquist, says now is the time to contact your respective insurance companies to ensure that you have adequate coverage.
To look at our insurance coverages to make sure that they are adequate, because there's nothing like having an event happen, coming to the insurance company, and they tell you, you can only get 50%, or you can only get 60% because you have underinsured. It's a vexing thing for all of us.
And he shares why this is so important.
It's important because the fact of the matter is that the government of the Bahamas can only do so much. And if you were to drive around Freeport today, you will see many roofs still with blue tarps or with varying degrees of damage, waiting on somebody to help. But the reality is our fiscal situation is such that there's only so much that we as a government can do. And so it is incumbent on us to be partners in this thing together. You doing your part, government doing its part, insurance companies and adjusters doing their part, to be fair and equitable.
Well, the National Emergency Agency conducting satellite phone testing throughout the country today. It is an essential exercise to ensure that effective communication equipment is in place in the time of storm. As Megan Shepard tells us, NEMA's local office is intricately involved in that process.
Co-chair of the Grand Bahama Disaster Consultative Committee, Tammy Mitchell, noting the importance of communication lines before, during, and after a disaster, specifically a hurricane. She says that the entire country is connected through several means of communications, and it is a necessity to always be on the same page. Here on Grand Bahama, the essential agencies also use several platforms.
We have the satellite phones, of course. We have the handheld radios, which are connected to the National Police Trunking System, which if anything goes out, that system is expected to remain operational all throughout, before, during, and after any event. We also have our radios that we use for the shelters, where every shelter is assigned a radio that can communicate with the Emergency Operations Center once the shelters are open. Communication is very important because, you know, if you fail to communicate, you definitely are going to have challenges.
The committee is actively planning and preparing for disasters year-round. But Mitchell says that during this time of the year, the work goes into overdrive.
We stay in contact with all of the emergency support function, lead, and support agencies. And we make sure that we check our communication levels periodically. We're also checking on our supplies. We're trying to make sure that if there's a need for shipment or for stuff coming in or going out of the warehouse, for example, we make sure that there are persons in place. Ministry of Works is also doing their checks because, you know, they're responsible for all of the government assets, to make sure that there are persons in place, and they have their teams already structured so that if there has to be anything that has to be secured, all of that is already in place. And we're touching bases with everyone constantly. We have our emergency support function chat groups where everybody receives emergency messages at the same time. And that is something that Captain Russell asks every island to put in place.
Another agency that is a part of the consultative committee is the University of the Bahamas. While this partnership is not entirely new, Mitchell says they are enhancing their role and participation.
The University of the Bahamas also has one of the national trunking radios. So if something is happening up there, we can also communicate with them as well. They are also a part of our disaster committee team. So anything that's going on up there, if there is an emergency, we can communicate directly with them through our national radio. Because they do now have students from the other islands that are now here on Grand Bahama. So they are also in the process of ensuring that if something happens and those students have to get back home to their respective islands, that is being addressed. So it's very important, and they are showing representation in our monthly meetings. They do come to the meetings at the end of every month.
Now, Mitchell is inviting all organizations that are interested in becoming a part of the committee to visit or call the NEMA headquarters for more information. Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
In news from the crime beat, 24-year-old Travis Alexander Coakley, a.k.a. Justin Thompson of Exuma, was hauled before the court today on 42 counts of fraud by false pretenses. Coakley pled not guilty to all charges, and the matters were adjourned to December 3rd through 5th and January 22nd through 29th for trial. Now, he was remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections until trial. You're watching the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Stay with us. There's more news right after this break.